Hey guys, Lexi here, and today I wanted to go over everything that we are putting for our Fishbones build. So before I get into the build video, I wanted to just make like a list of everything that I used. So like this for his body, I used an 8-inch Quik Tube. This is just a tube that they use for concrete building, and I just cut off the top of it to make it a little bit more tube size. So you need Quik Tube. You can find this at Lowe's, Home Depot, just any hardware store, and you'll need this for his body. You will need EVA foam. EVA foam you can get at a hardware store, but what I like to get is kids floor mats, because the kids floor mats are cheaper than the hardware floor mats, the EVA. So if you get the EVA foam, I suggest getting the kids floor mats. They're colorful, but they are a lot cheaper. You'll also need purple insulation foam. You can get this at Lowe's or Home Depot, any hardware store. This is 2-inch insulation foam. I use this for his teeth and just any kind of detail pieces that need to be shaped. Tool-wise, of course, you'll need measuring tape. You'll need a hand Dremel and different sanding pieces. I just used this kind of wide sanding piece for like the edging on his teeth and his fin and stuff to get the edging I wanted, like this detailing that I did. I got that with the hand Dremel. And you'll need hot glue gun. You'll need a hot glue gun because especially with this insulation foam, you cannot use the contact cement on it. You have to use the hot glue because the contact cement just like eats at the foam, and figured that out and wasn't very good. So you need contact cement and hot glue. The contact cement you will use on the EVA foam, and the hot glue you will use for the purple insulation foam to put it onto the EVA. And you also need a soldering iron, and I used the solder for these details behind Fishbone's eyes. I use that for just kind of burning it in instead of digging it out with the Xacto knife. I just burnt it in. You also need an Xacto knife. This will make it a lot easier for cutting out EVA and the foam and everything. And scissors, you'll need an Xacto knife. You also need scissors, but the Xacto knife is a lot easier to work with. Extra hot glue, of course. A pencil for drawing out your pieces. And if you made a pattern for your pieces on the base, get your pattern so you can trace your pattern onto your EVA, because I made a pattern out of craft foam first, and then I used the craft foam pattern and then cut it out of the EVA so I would have exact pieces, so I wasn't messing up my EVA. And let's see, I think that's all. I will list everything in the description that I used as well, but I just wanted to go over everything that I used, and I'll probably put there's like a list right here in front of me. But here's everything I use. Let's get into the building of Fishbones. Let's go. One more thing I forgot to mention that you'll need is sandpaper, because after you use the Dremel you have to hand sand it. So for hand sanding these materials, I used a 220 grit sandpaper and I believe 120. So 120 and a 220. Let me make sure. Yeah, 120. 120 and 220 for hand sanding.
Okay, so where I started first was the back of Fishbones. I made a pattern first, and then I figured out that I needed 2 pieces of craft foam to make one long piece of craft foam. So I stacked 2 pieces of craft foam to make it thicker, and I made it long enough so it would wrap all the way around. and I did this for the two back pieces. One was stacked with 2 pieces of craft foam, and the other was stacked with 3 pieces of craft foam, and I just hot glued them together, and then I hot glued the edges and so it would look like one solid piece. Okay, so after you get that piece all glued together and all the edges glued, next we're going to be making the piece that's right on top of it. So we're going to be using EVA foam. It's that piece that's just a little bit above Fishbones on the back. I don't know what it is, but you're going to use EVA foam. You're going to cut your shape out. I suggest you make a pattern first, that way you're not just cutting straight out your EVA foam. So you're going to use your EVA foam and cut it out. So the piece I cut out of the EVA foam was just a little bit shorter than I needed, so I had another piece of EVA foam and I used my contact cement and just glued it onto the end of the piece that I was making. That way it would be the length that I needed. This is the second piece that you need for the back of Fishbones. It's made the same way that the first piece was made, by stacking the craft foam and gluing it together. This piece was made out of 3 pieces of craft foam stacked on top of each other, and the other one was made out of 2 pieces of craft foam stacked on top of each other. But again, you are going to need a little bit of extra craft foam because one piece of craft foam does not wrap all the way around the base. You can't stop it now. This is the second top back piece. It was made the same as the first top back piece. They were the EVA foam was too short, so I had to glue 2 pieces of EVA foam that I wanted to size. and made sure that it was the right length. And then once it was the right length, once I made sure my pieces were the right size, I got my hand Dremel and put a small sanding piece on the end and just carved into the edging of my EVA foam to give it the kind of raised effect on it so it would look like the Fishbones piece. I then used my hand sanding pieces and hand sanded the edging to get all the rough pieces that the hand Dremel makes, and I used the hand sanding utensils and just sanded the edges till they were smooth. I did that both on the inside and the outside, and I did it on every piece that I used the Dremel on because the Dremel just makes really rough edge. So with the hand Dremel as well, with the small sanding utensil piece on it, you can use it to carve into your EVA foam to give your Fishbones some weathering and gashes in his armor.
We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies, the champions of the world that we defy.
So for Fishbones back piece, you have to use 4 pieces of EVA foam, or at least I did. I used 4 pieces of EVA foam and used the contact cement and glued them together so it would be one solid piece. And then I traced my pattern onto the EVA foam and cut it out. I used the hand Dremel again, and I used the same technique that I did on the back pieces and used that small sanding utensil and carved into the back of Fishbones to make that raised edge. And also I used a fatter sanding utensil and made the indentions in his back as well. Instead of cutting them straight out with the Xacto knife, I just carved them in with the... Okay, so after you finish the back piece, you're going to use your purple insulation foam and get your pattern and trace your fin piece onto the insulation foam. This is the back fin piece first. You're going to do it for both fin pieces, but trace your fin piece on it, cut it out with your Xacto knife. Make it just a little bit bigger than your pattern because you are going to be using the Dremel to sand down the edges. And when using the Dremel, I use the fatter sanding tool, and you sand at an angle, that way you get this kind of sharp edge on his fin. I did it on both the top and the back, and I made the bottom flat, but you're going to sand at an angle so it gives it kind of a sharp edge. And then after you finish all that, sand it with the hand sanding utensils, and then use the smaller Dremel piece and carve some weathering and gashes into his fin. Because Fishbones is going to be perfect. He is a cannon. He's going to have some damage. So after you finish with the Dremel, get your hand sanding utensils and make sure you sand that fin until it's nice and smooth. It's going to take 2 different sandpapers. I used a 220 grit and a 120 grit and just sanded it until I was happy with the smoothness. But this will conclude the first building half of Fishbones. I will have the second building half up soon, but I hope you enjoyed watching the first building half. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will bring more Fishbones videos and more Jinx related tutorials soon. I'm building them as fast as I can, so I have those videos out as soon as I can. Thank you for being patient with me, and thanks for watching. Bye, you guys!